What's up, Elbow Bros? Welcome to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. Sorry, things are a little bit crazy right now in my personal life. As you can see, I kind of switched up the location where I'm podcasting in my office. Potty training my son. A lot of crazy things going on in life right now. And I just wanted to sit down and do an episode about if I were to start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 2023, these are 5 tips that I would tell you that I probably would change on my journey when I first started. And hopefully they can help you if you're listening to this and you haven't started yet, or if you just started. Here goes 5 tips for what you should be doing. But first, a message from our sponsors. What's up, guys? Are you tired of grappling body hair on and off the mats? Well, have no fear, because we have a solution that will keep you rolling smoothly and in style, thanks to Manscaped. Picture this, you're about to step onto the jiu-jitsu mats, ready to dominate and submit all your opponents. But wait, what's that? Your unruly body hair. That's why you need Manscaped, the global leader in men's grooming. With their precision engineering tools, you could tame the hairiest situations and grapple yourself to victory. Imagine executing the perfect armbar, all while knowing your bald hair is trying to sneak in a sneaky triangle choke. Thanks to the Lawnmower 4.0, you can easily eliminate that unwanted hair with this cutting-edge technology. It's like a black belt for body hair. So to my fellow BJJ practitioners, whether you're a white belt or a black belt, let Manscaped be your secret weapon on and off the mats. Go to manscaped.com and use code ETP20 for 20% off and free shipping. That's ETP20 at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. And with Manscaped, you'll be a force to reckon with on the mats and in the mirror. Have you ever experienced the agony of sleepless nights when you're away from home? Well, let me tell you about a recent trip that I went on that became a sleep disaster. Picture this. You go on a thrilling adventure, leaving behind the comfort of your own bed. Unfortunately, also your beloved pillow. Little did I know the effect it would have on my sleep night after night, struggling to find that cozy, supportive feeling I had grown accustomed to. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, Travis, you get paid by Mummy Pillow to promote their brand and their products. And it's very true, I do, but that's only because after using it, I absolutely could not believe how big of an impact it had on my sleep. Mummy Pillow has been a godsend for me and my sleep. Not having it on that trip and sleeping with those hotel pillows was horrible. I wish I would have brought it with me. And with Mummy Pillows, you also get a travel bag that comes with your pillow. So don't be like me. Bring your pillow everywhere you go and enjoy your night of sleep. And let me tell you, coming back home and finally sinking into the embrace of that Mummy Pillow was like returning home to a long lost friend. It was like my pillow had whispered to me, "Welcome back, my dear friend. Rest well." Go to mvmisleep.com and use code ElbowsTight at checkout for 15% off. Once again, that's 15% off with code ElbowsTight at checkout. Sleep ambitiously with Mummy. All right, so tip number 1 should come to no surprise to anyone. I often talk about this, and for my journey, it wouldn't have changed anything, but number 1 should be you should find an academy that fits your life. I've talked about it many a times before. It is probably the most important thing when it comes to your jiu-jitsu journey is finding an academy that fits your lifestyle, whether it's location, whether it is hours, whether it's a welcoming atmosphere, whatever it is, you need to find a jiu-jitsu academy that fits your lifestyle. We talk about it before that it doesn't matter if your academy has world-class athletes or if it is perfectly priced for you. If it's 2-3 hours away, then that might not be the best academy for you. Or if it is within a reasonable distance and then it's completely priced out of your budget, then that's another thing that you need to think about. So number 1 is you definitely need to find an academy that fits your lifestyle. Do they have kids academy, or do they have kids care there? That's something that some academies do have. How is the atmosphere? Is it like a kill or be killed thing there? Something to think about also. And a great way to find out if it is the right academy for you is you could either, just sit down, watch them for a little bit and see what the classes are like. And you could also try a couple different academies. I know here in Kitsap County where I live, now there are lots of jiu-jitsu academies. When I first started my journey back in 2017, I think it was, there was only 2 or 3 academies in all of Kitsap County. Now we have quite a few. I think there's probably about 10 here. And none of them are anywhere close to my house. My current academy is the one closest to my house. We don't have the best schedule for my lifestyle, but we make it work. And so I don't think if I were to go back today, I would probably still pick the current academy that I have. But that is definitely the number one thing you should think about. All right, and tip number 2, honestly, I think would make a bigger difference in my journey. That is, don't worry about promotions. When we talked to Thomas Rosinski for the first time, John and I, back in 2018 or something like that, he was the first one that really kind of honed in the idea that promotions don't matter, belts don't matter. Before, I thought they were such a huge aspect of jiu-jitsu, and I still do think they're pretty important to people. I think they do make great goals as long as it's not solely what you're focusing on, and I do think that they are a way that your professor does say thank you for all the hard work. I noticed that you're progressing, but I definitely feel like I focused a little bit too much on the belt when we first started. I was training as much as possible. I was trying to do as much as possible because I wanted my blue belt so bad. And honestly, now thinking about it, I don't think it was necessarily a healthy relationship with jiu-jitsu because of that. John and I would talk about it, that after we got our blue belts, we kind of took a step back from training as much because we felt like that we have accomplished our goal. And so now, we don't really need to be there as much. Blue belt's often called your longest belt, right? Besides black and up. But, you often spend less time or the most time at blue belt, blue to purple. And so I kind of wonder if I were to go back and not train as much, would I be promoted as fast as I did with a more regular schedule, not training as much, or would I have progressed less? It's an interesting thing to think about. And I think because I did train so much when I first started, that it kind of made me press the brakes a little too hard after I got my blue belt. And I think I probably could have progressed faster after getting my blue belt if I didn't train as much before getting my blue belt, if that makes sense. I would really focus on learning and perfecting techniques much more rather than the promotion as being the reason behind it. As a white belt, I definitely notice now that my escapes, and it kind of laid the foundation for my jiu-jitsu now, my escapes back in my white belt days weren't necessarily the best because, I was focusing on other things way more than I was focusing on, getting submitted, and that's another tip later, or honing the technique as much as possible. I definitely think that was a weakness of my white belt days. And once again, I feel like I was just trying to win as much as possible to prove that I was worthy of a blue belt. And, we did test. I don't know how many of you guys have been around, since John and I's white belt days in the podcast, but we did test for our blue belts, and that was an extremely difficult process. It was like an hour long of, Shark Tank, and I really enjoyed learning or testing for my blue belt. Back in my white belt days, I watched a lot of Roy Dean, and I thought, oh man, this is the way to do it. Everyone should be testing for their blue belt, their purple belt, whatever it is. Testing is the way to go. And now my idea of that is completely different. But, I would have trusted the process more and known that if I were to just focus more on the technique and just better myself in every aspect, the promotion would still come. It might have been faster, it might have been slower. Who knows? But I definitely feel like because I didn't focus on things I probably should have on my white belt days, that now as a blue belt, there are some holes in my game that I think could have been solved in my white belt days, like a couple of escapes. I'm not necessarily good with people on my back, and that's because I usually don't let people get on my back. I was very aggressive as a white belt. I would always be attacking. I would always be pushing forward. I would always be the aggressor. You know what I mean? And now I would be, not nearly as aggressive, but once people get my back, I'm like, man, I can't get these freaking people off of me, man. So, that's something that I kind of look back now and think, man, maybe if I would have not have focused so much on promotions, maybe my game would be a little bit different. And like I mentioned, Thomas Rosinski, when he told us, what is a belt? It's a colored cloth, that takes up 2 inches of your waist. It doesn't matter. It doesn't stop you from learning. It doesn't stop you from progressing. Some academies do, you can only learn this move at X belt and up, but that's only at your academy. Even if your academy does that, you can still, outside of your class time, go learn things, study tape, all these ideas of that aren't taught because of your belt color. You can still learn them, especially nowadays with the internet. Man, there are so many resources out there. You can't even like go anywhere on Instagram without freaking seeing techniques and tips and tricks, and you get so inundated with information and seeing people, obviously, and the same thing with promotions. People always post their highlight reels on Instagram where they are getting promoted, submitting someone. Not everyone, but a majority of people do. And so that's another thing, is like, you're like, oh man, this guy just got promoted and I gotta get my promotion now, promotion. But don't focus on that on your journey. Focus on your technique and focus on you. And these, we'll go deeper into a little couple of subtopics between that. Just remember that promotions are a symbol of progression, and they are not the ultimate goal of your jiu-jitsu journey. Your ultimate goal of jiu-jitsu should be longevity. It should be getting better every class. It should be having fun, finding a community. It should be all these things. Those are much more important than what belt you tie around your waist. So just keep that in mind. And once again, to kind of tie into not focusing on promotion, like I mentioned, my escapes kind of sucked because I didn't want to get submitted. And so tip number 3 is get submitted a lot. It's something I definitely would have changed about my jiu-jitsu journey, especially with other white belts. I feel like I didn't put myself in enough compromising positions, and I'm paying for it now. My jiu-jitsu, like I mentioned, doesn't have the best escapes and defenses in some positions, and that's because during my white belt days when I first started, I just would avoid them, and I was like aggressive, go. I gotta submit these people, I gotta be the aggressor, and I definitely did not get submitted nearly as much as I probably should have. I mean, with higher belts, I did, but with other white belts, I felt like I had to dominate, and I didn't get submitted enough. You gotta embrace the learning process. Getting submitted is just a part of that in your jiu-jitsu journey. Don't frown upon getting submitted. There's the best people in the world get submitted. There was a video of Gordon Ryan probably a couple months ago where he was in class, and I think he was training in the gi, and like a brown belt submitted him, in class. Now, would that brown belt submit him in competition? Probably not, but in the lab, in the dojo, in the academy, in class, these are places where you should be learning and you should be getting submitted, because it's only going to make you better as long as you take it as a learning experience and you don't take it as like a hit to your ego, because it all helps you improve. A submission is just a learning opportunity. If you get submitted by someone after the roll, be like, hey, how did you get there? How did I get submitted? Analyze what went wrong, and, take it as like a point of improvement on your defense. Take these things as, man, okay, I put myself, like now, I still don't do it, and I probably should, to be honest with you. But now you could be like, okay, he was on my back. How did he get there? He submitted me. How do I stop that? That's so much value if you can do the kind of the retrospective look at your jiu-jitsu journey and see why these things happen. But if you never get submitted, then you never are going to grow as much as you could. Being vulnerable is extremely important in jiu-jitsu. You have to be able to be vulnerable. Being submitted and putting yourself in these compromising positions is the ultimate vulnerability, because you're allowing someone to, basically put you in these I guess you could say, like, a fight for your life. We always talk about jiu-jitsu is like a fight for your life, but you shouldn't look at jiu-jitsu as a fight. You should look at it as a learning opportunity, like I mentioned. But you're basically allowing this person to be like, oh man, I would kill you right now. I got you so deep in that choke. And it's like, well, yeah, because I let you get there because I'm trying to learn how to get out of it, So just be okay with that. Don't let being submitted be a hit to your ego. I promise you it's not. You're going to get better because of it. Don't get discouraged. Every submission is a chance to learn and grow in your jiu-jitsu journey, and you should totally look at it that way. Otherwise, you're gonna never get submitted. You're gonna be like me, an old crusty blue belt who can't get people off their back because I never let people get on my back when I was a freaking white belt, and now I have a hard time of getting people off my back, and it is a huge sore point in my jiu-jitsu, and I need to be better at it. I need to do it now. So listen to me. If you're starting jiu-jitsu or you just started, find out what you suck at, go there a lot, get submitted. I promise you, it's okay. You're not going to get hurt. You're not going to die. Well, if they don't let go of the submission, that's a different story. No. So just think about it that way, and it's going to be an eye opener for you. Number 4 is going to be enjoy your journey. Man, you have to enjoy the process. Don't come to class and solely focus on the right now. Like, you should be, obviously, because if you're not focusing on the right now, then you're going to get submitted in class, right? You want to focus on what's going on at hand. But I'm talking about more of like the macro sense. So what I'm talking about is don't come to class, focus on what happened in class, and then leave being discouraged because of what exactly happened in the class. Jiu-jitsu is a lifelong journey. One of your goals in jiu-jitsu should be to train for as long as possible, because then, you're constantly going to get better. I mean, there's just so much good that comes from training in jiu-jitsu, and it's, if you don't enjoy the process, if you don't enjoy the journey, it's going to be a whole lot harder to want to show up to class. We always talk about blue belt blues. And this is why John decided to, end his journey in jiu-jitsu, because he didn't enjoy the journey anymore. He didn't enjoy the process. He wasn't in love with it anymore. And if you go to class and you get heavily discouraged every class because you didn't get promoted or you got submitted too many times, like, you got to understand that's all part of what goes on in jiu-jitsu. Focus on the present moment and enjoy the process of learning, but don't focus on the moment and think that what's happening right now is the end all be all for the rest of your journey. If you look at it like that, then you're not going to stay in jiu-jitsu very long. If you go to every class and as a white belt, you're like, man, I just keep getting submitted all the freaking time. Keep getting submitted all the freaking time. These guys are kicking my butts, this and that. Then, you're going to get discouraged a whole lot faster. You're going to not want to keep showing up. You're going to, have these negative connotations with going to class, rather than just understand, like, we were all there. We've all been there. Even the best people in the world were the nail sometimes. Now there still are the nail, but not as frequent as they are the hammer. So that's an important thing to think about, because you can't focus on the now in a sense of, man, I'm just not progressing at all. I'm just, so and so over there is doing so much better than me. Oh, they got promoted, they got a stripe. These everyone's process is at their own pace. You gotta just focus on your own journey. You can't look at, like I mentioned earlier, you can't look at Instagram and think to yourself, oh man, I used to train with that person. They got promoted. I should be promoted. I used to submit them all the time. How come they got promoted? You don't know what's going on in their journey. You have to just focus on your journey. Enjoy the journey, man. I definitely think, like I mentioned once again before, that because I trained so much when I was a white belt trying to get my blue belt, that once I got my blue belt, it wasn't the same anymore. Like my journey wasn't the same anymore because I got that belt. That's what I wanted. And once I got it, that was like, okay, so why do I keep training right now? Well, I keep training because I want to get better at jiu-jitsu. I keep training because I want to progress, but I definitely wasn't enjoying the journey as much as I probably should have for longevity purposes. And now if I get to train twice a week, I'm super stoked. It's life is completely different. We go through these seasons in our lives that change things. And even for me, it can be discouraging when I can't train for 2 weeks because, sometimes I'll think about what it was like training back in my white belt days when I could dedicate more time to it. But my life's not the same as it was when I first started. And I'm okay with that. I wouldn't have it any other way, And if you're a white belt and you're going through a different season in life that changes your journey, you should still appreciate when you do get to train. Cody, one of my best friends, Cody Smith, owner of Virtuous, he talks about you should change this mindset of I have to as to I get to. So not that I have to go to class tonight to train, but I get to go train tonight. Not that I have to do 2 times a week in order to progress. I get to train 2 times a week in order to progress. If you start being more, what's the word I'm looking for? Aware of your mindset during your journey, it's going to be a whole lot easier for you to accept the hard with the good. It's so easy to enjoy your journey when everything's going up, right? It's so easy to enjoy your journey when you're submitting people, when you're getting promoted, when you're going to class 3-4 times a week. It's super easy to enjoy your journey, but you should keep that feeling even when you have an injury and you can't train as much, or you have to take some time off because of family issues, or you can't make it to class because you had to work late at work, and still appreciate that, oh man, I could still go train later this week, or I still can and I get to train next week, or whenever you do get to. You have to look at your journey that way, and it will help you in the long run for training with longevity, And having that mindset at day one will, honestly, there's no way it's not going to help you. If you're always appreciative of being able to make it to class, however little you do get to go, that's what's most important. So, with that, I'm going to go with number 5 as being, and I'll throw an extra one in there. I'll throw a 6th one in there. But number 5 is, if you can, be consistent as possible. Consistency is key. Once again, Thomas Rosinski talked about this. Man, he's like such a knowledgeable guy. Shout out to Thomas for giving me so much knowledge and changing the way I look at my jiu-jitsu journey, because honestly, it's helped me out so much just thinking of it thinking of it that way. But, you know, being consistent is super important because that's how you get better. The more often you show up consistently, you'll build that muscle memory. You'll understand these positions because, man, there's like, when you first start, there's just so much knowledge when it comes to jiu-jitsu. You know, it's even hard to ask questions when you first start because you just don't know what you don't know. You know, quick story about that. When I used to work for a private engineering firm, this plays into jiu-jitsu, I promise. I used to work for a private engineering firm, and I had to fly to Mississippi to help out with Mississippi's Department of Transportation. They had a bunch of wood bridges that they needed to assess if the wood columns that were supporting the bridges were still good or not, right? It's just like a routine maintenance thing. So they hired my engineering firm that I worked at. We flew down to Mississippi and we started drilling 1/16 holes into it. So it's like a hammer or a nail. Sorry, we're like the size of a nail in there, right? With like a foot-long drill bit. And the reason we did that is because we wanted to see if the inside of the timber was, you know, like rotting or anything not, right? So we would drill and we would feel how the wood felt drilling through, right? If it felt solid, if there was any points of when it like plunged, right? Like the wood was decaying. Anyways, so the first time that we have like a team meeting, the head engineer is like, okay, everyone, I want you to drill into this pillar right here and let me know what it feels like. And so I was like, all right, comes my turn. I start drilling it and I'm like, I don't know. Like in my head, I'm thinking, I don't know what this feels like because this is literally the first time I've ever done this. And the engineer's like, all right, Travis, what did it feel like? Is there any rotten in there or anything like that? And I was like, to tell you the truth, I don't know. And he's like, what do you mean you don't know? You just drilled it. I was like, well, I don't know what a good one feels like, and I don't know what a bad one feels like. I need more of a base to understand what's going on here. You know, if I could get 3 or 4 good ones and someone tells me these are good, this is like a control, then I can be able to assess what's not good. So it's all that to say, in jiu-jitsu, if you just start and someone says, you know, your professor's like, hey, do you have any questions about the Kimura? What is the hard part that you're having with the Kimura? You know, at first, you're not going to have any base of knowledge. You're not even going to understand fully what he's talking about. And with consistency, tying this back to consistency, the more you show up, the more reps you get in, the more pillars I drilled, you know, the more of, oh, this was a good rep, this was a bad rep. You start building that knowledge of jiu-jitsu and you start understanding what's going on and how you can improve and what's working for you, what's not working for you. But if you never show up to jiu-jitsu or you show up like, I don't know, I mean, once a week is really hard to progress at jiu-jitsu. Most of the time, you should be coming 2 to 3 times a week if you can. Even for my journey, if I show up once a week, I'm grateful that I did get to show up, but I really wish I could do twice, 3 times a week. But being consistent is the key. Consistency over a long period of time also. If you look at someone that showed up, 5 days a week for 2 or 3 months, and then they take 2 or 3 months off, then you have someone that showed up twice a week for the 6 months while the other person took those 3 months off. Then who do you think is going to progress? Who do you think at the end of those 6 months is going to have improved the most? Now, I mean, once again, that's relative on each person and their journey. But, I would venture to say that the person that was consistently for the entire 6 months there 2 weeks or 2 times a week would probably be progressing further than the guy that showed up for the first half 5 times a week. You know what I mean? So think of your journey that way. You want consistency on a longer period of time. Not just these. I showed up 20 times a quarter. It's like, yeah, but how many times could you have shown up that entire year? So consistency is key. That's how you're going to progress. If you never get to roll with someone because you're never there, then you can't put these techniques in theories and ideas that you learn in class into action, right? And so next time you come to class, whenever that is, you have that, like, I'm sure you guys have all felt it too. You take a break because of an injury or whatever. Excuse me. And then you come back and you have like a solid week of, or at least 2 or 3 classes of trying to remember how things go. You have that muscle memory there, but you gotta, you're like, how do I finish an arm triangle again? How do I escape out of mount? How do I do a front roll? How do I do a break fall? These little things. You may turn the wrong way on a move. You may grip the wrong spot on a Toriando pass because it's been like 2 or 3 weeks or months because you've been injured or you haven't been able to train or whatever, right? So these like little small details might take a while for them to come back. Like you still have a gist of what you're doing, right? You're still pretty knowledgeable, but there's little things out there that might have an issue of trying to remember and get better at. So just think about that. Consistency is key. Being consistent over a longer period of time versus a short period of time is going to help you improve much quicker and consistently by doing that. So just keep that in mind. And then you know what? The bonus one is something that I've been doing a lot more, and I kind of been doing it since. So the bonus tip, and I think is extremely underrated, and I've been doing it basically since I started jiu-jitsu, and I absolutely love it, especially with all the resources that we have now, is film your rolls. Look, filming your rolls is great. When John and I first started training and we first started filming our rolls together, he realized like, oh man, I thought I was moving quite a bit, but come to find out I wasn't. Sorry, that's my kid in the background. If you guys hear in the background, we're potty training him, like I said at the beginning of the episode. And so he's getting buck wild out there with my wife. So, but this is going to be the last one, so I'll be able to go help her out. But anyways, so film your rolls. That's going to be one of the quickest ways for you to realize what you're doing versus what you think you're doing, right? Also, what a great part about that is there are a lot of resources like BJJ Mental Models has the premium that, you can submit your rolling footage and your tournament footage to them for review to find out what you did wrong and how you can improve. There's lots of people on the internet that will review rolling footage for you to, help you out. Not only that, but I had someone that told me one time, I forgot who it was, but they're like, telling white belts to watch their footage or film their rolls isn't necessarily good because they don't know what they don't know. And I agree, right? You're not going to know why you got submitted most of the time when you first start. But the beautiful part about having your rolling and your training filmed is you can review it later and you could like play by play it. Like, okay, I was going for this. He did this. I guess that's what I did wrong. And then you can, take it back to class and take it back to the lab and figure out like, oh man, I did this last time. I'm going to try not to do that next time and see if that is what improves. So you don't have to have all the knowledge in the world to just, when you get submitted in the video, rewind it slowly, watch what happens, how he set it up and see, or they set it up and see, like, oh, could it have been this, kind of like brainstorm it, put it, you got like, what is it? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You got like the wall of, lines drawn together on why things are working or why things are happening and whatnot. So you could do that with your video. So stupid, but you could do that with your video, whether you are a white belt or blue belt or whatever it is, filming your rolls is a great way to like document your journey too. As you progress through your jiu-jitsu journey, you're able to look back at your videos and just kind of like see how far you've come. We often get discouraged during the times that we're nails in the hammer and nail analogy. And we can forget how far we have come in our journey, and we can easily forget how bad we were or what the hardships that we had when we first started. And if you have a documented journey, right, of your jiu-jitsu journey, then it's a whole lot easier to look back and be like, oh man, yeah, I did get submitted by that arm bar today, but looking at my defense, it was pretty solid. He just, today they were just better than me. Now let's look at the old video of me getting submitted by an armbar. There was no defense. There was nothing. It was me just getting my butt kicked, so, so film your rolls. You could do it with just your cell phone, right? You could just do it with your cell phone. You don't need a fancy camera. You don't need what Jordan Pressinger, Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu use. You don't need all this fancy stuff. My buddy Keegan has a beautiful Sony camera, and he uses his phone in class to film the rolls. This thing is powerful. Like this is the Google Pixel 7. It does 4K 60 with active stabilization. If you know what that means if I shake, my camera stays still, so it doesn't the video doesn't shake, so it's easier to watch later. That's a powerful tool. You know what I mean? And there's like cloud. Like this camera, if I use this camera, I have to have a big memory card if I want to film a lot of rolls. With this thing, I got cloud on it. I got 1 terabyte of memory on this, and so don't think that you need some fancy camera or a GoPro or something like that in order to film your rolls. No, use your phone. There's also when Cody and I used to weightlift back in the day, and we would, film our lifts, our snatch and clean and jerk, squats, and everything like that, so we could, 1, post on the gram, of course, and then 2, rewatch a technique to see what we did wrong. If I missed a snatch, like, okay, was the bar too far forward? Did I send my hips forward, or did I send them up? How was my triple extension? Blah, 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 right? So what we would do is back in the day, we didn't have fancy tripods and stuff like that. What we did, hold on a second. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, then you're going to be able to see this. That is Velcro from my bike shoes, from my Peloton. But what would we do? Here we go. You ready for this? We call this the shoe cam, and I'll probably make a YouTube video about it. But the shoe cam, if you're watching this, you'll be able to see that all it is just my camera is in my shoe, and it's tightened to where it holds my camera up. A shoe cam. That's all you need. You don't need anything super fancy. You got a pair of shoes that you wore to class. Put the shoe next to where you are on the mat, stick the camera in vertically or horizontally, however you want to do it, and then you can film yourself. So filming your rolls is an additional way to just, share it with your coach, share it with other people, and it provides amazing feedback for improvement. If you're after class, if you're like, hey, coach, professor, Steve, Dan, whatever you call them, if you're like, hey, I was rolling with so-and-so, they got me in this position. Here it is on my phone. Can you tell me what went wrong? And most likely, unless you go to an academy with a dickhead professor, which some of you guys do, he's most likely going to look at it and say, oh, it's because you did X, Y, and Z. Now, because he saw exactly that, you know exactly what went wrong. Now, imagine telling your professor, hey, I was in this position, I got submitted from this, right? There's a lot of nuance when it comes to jiu-jitsu, and he could be like, or they could be like, yeah, you could have done this or you could have done that. They have to kind of give a generalized answer, but when you have the actual footage of it, you get what I'm saying? They can see exactly what went wrong. They can give you the exact advice or tips that you might need for that thing. So film your rolls. Stick your camera in a shoe. Don't make it complicated. Don't worry about what goes on Instagram. Your camera on your phone, I don't even care if you have like an Apple or an iPhone 7 or a Samsung Galaxy S10 or whatever. You got 1080p. It's pretty freaking good. You don't need anything super crazy. So, but that's gonna be it for me today. Just focus on these 5-6 things when you guys are done. Honestly, if I would, like I said, if I was starting jiu-jitsu in 2023 and me now would talk to fresh white belt Travis, I would tell them all these things. Now, would fresh white belt Travis listen? Probably not, because fresh white belt Travis was cocky, young. I think I was like 25, 26 years old, in shape, and I thought I could just muscle through everything. But it wouldn't hurt to tell, me back then what to do to help out. So with consistent training and dedication, your progress in jiu-jitsu, your confidence, your goals that you want to achieve, you can accomplish it all. Just think about it. Hopefully these tips help you out. Let me know down, if you're listening on Spotify, you can comment down below what tips would you add to this list. Hit me up on Instagram, comment down on YouTube, whatever it is, just let me know what you guys think. I appreciate all your time. Also, go real quick, some housekeeping stuff. I always forget to do this. I need to write a list down again. Join the Facebook group, L Bros, over on Facebook. Thank you guys so much, the guys that are there. In 2 weeks, we have like over 30 members. We're super active. If you guys are there, then you get insight on what's coming up with the podcast, like the whole new logo and branding. The people in the Facebook group got to check that out first. So make sure you guys go find L Bros. It's going to be linked down in the description also. And thank you guys so much for everything. elbowstight.com, elbows tight everywhere. And yeah, thanks guys. Let me know what you guys think. We'll catch you later. Peace.